SupaTV.
Hello and welcome, super viewers, to the week that was with the Daily Sun. My name is Mo, and I'm tasked with bringing you some of the biggest stories to come out of the Daily Sun this week. As usual, I'm not alone. I'm joined by a representative from the Daily Sun. This week we have Mapula Nkosi. Mapula, how are you doing?
I'm good, guys. Thank you for inviting me, Super Family.
All right, we're always glad to have you. And the stories that we have this week are quite interesting, are quite a variety of what's been happening in terms of the aftermath of the looting. So is there any highlights that you're very excited for?
I love the story, the first story that we're going to start with, which is the aftermath of the looting. I love the story as well of the celebrities when we get to the entertainment section of celebrities and their response to the looting.
Yes.
Yeah, and I also love the story of the Gobela, the Gobela that tried his tricks to try to get the Twasa to fall in love with him. So yeah. Let's laugh, let's cry, but most of all, let's get entertained with what was the best stories for Daily Sun this week.
All right, so let's get straight into it, because the first story is the one that you're saying you're very happy about. And this is about a young lady who was in a wheelchair and a building caught fire and someone was able to come and rescue her.
Yes, I think it talks to, communities, how they look after each other and how they relate together during this difficult time that we had. This young maiden, usually, she told us that she usually enjoys going to, the Reed dance. She's usually goes and uyahlolwa every year. She is a virgin, a proud virgin, and very independent. She is on a wheelchair. And after she found a job, she decided to be fully independent and live in Durban in the CBD. Yes. As we knew, we saw a lot of buildings actually on fire because people, after they looted, they were not only happy with the loot, they decided to actually, burn the infrastructure. So on her building, we got to actually find out that there were 4 fires. So, and every time she was able to get help from Sun Heroes, we call them. And in this particular instance, when it first happened, the neighbor relates how actually when they went downstairs and looked amongst themselves, they realized that she's not there. So they went up to get her. What a heartwarming act that they had to, make sure that they bring her to safety. And we have wonderful pictures of her. She's very fly, a bit of a fashionista. So it was a very, very heartwarming story that out of all the orgy of violence, the chaos, that the human stories are the good stories.
It's a very beautiful story in the fact that when she tells it from her perspective, she says she ran into she wheeled herself to the corridor and she just waited there hoping that someone will come back for her. And that's exactly what went down. So let's go to the next story. This one was quite shocking. So this lady apparently had a baby at the hospital. That baby passed away, but there was a baby swap that happened.
Yes, at George Mokari in the north of Tshwane in Garanku, actually, to be exact. These 2 ladies had their children last year, June, and none was the wiser. Although, as you read into the story, the other lady from Winterveld and the other ladies from Soshanguve, who is heartbroken, very heartbreaking story. She was called in January after the discovery that the baby that was hers had passed on, and I think it's during the burial of the other baby when the second parents questioned, that they realized that it's actually not their child, but the baby is also already buried. So imagine they call you to say that there's a baby swap. That is devastating to any parent, but to be told in the same breath that but the baby that is actually biologically yours died with another family. So it's absolutely heartbreaking. I cannot imagine anybody that can be put through, any parent that can be put through such a huge bungle by the hospital.
It's a big blunder because now imagine now, not only are you going to lose the baby that you've fallen in love with over the past couple of months, but your baby is now dead and gone and you have to accept that without having a funeral, without having a burial. This baby didn't even meet the family properly. So it's going to be it's a big loss for them. But let's go back to the looting stories. Oh, you want to say something?
No, on the baby swap story, the heartbroken mom is still holding the baby that's not hers. So the red tape by the Department of Health is actually increasing, her grief because she still hasn't given the baby that's not hers to the other parents. Yeah. Why it's taken so long? The hospital did not want to give us answers because the second parents actually have already instituted a legal claim. So I don't know, it's because of that this thing is dragging on long. But for me, the baby and the mother are bonding even deeper because they should have speeded it up after they told her in January and made sure that the swap also happens so that this baby who's now over a year old would then be starting to bond with their natural parents.
It's very sad because now you can't just let go of a baby that you've raised for more than everything always or then you get told how it's a very big burden to carry for both families.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the next story. Let's talk about the looters now. This one, I don't know if it's looters or what was going on here, but someone decided it would be a good idea to hide their alcohol.
I'm not sure if it's looters, but I think it talks to the take it or leave it type of illicit selling of booze when there's always a ban. I don't know if you've seen, but usually when there's a ban, social media is awash with all these ideas of how to hide your alcohol, and potato bags seems to be one of the favorite methods. I think I've also seen where they hide it in this styrofoams that we get when we go to funerals.
Yes.
When they dish out in those styrofoams. So imagine just going to buy maybe 2 beers and then hiding them there and then actually getting busted for that. So these people were actually about to do a drop-off. There were several bags of potatoes and they were unfortunately caught in a cop sort of special operation. So there was some sort of a roadblock. And when they saw that they are turning, I think they turned a bit hastily. They were frightened of seeing the police. The police followed them up and then rounded them up, and then they actually discovered this loot. It's creative bootlegging basically, but even in the car there was school bags where they were also at the bottom of the school bags there were a lot of booze hidden. So unfortunately for the bootleggers, they arrested them.
No, it's a very interesting story because I never would have thought in a million years that you should just put your alcohol in a potato bag and no one is going to find it. The funniest thing about the picture that you guys used in the article, the police are there and those are the bags, the potatoes, and it's like, wow, you guys have been caught. But let's move on to the story that you were very excited about. This Kopela apparently gave his twasa some korobela, nrate.
Yes. Yeah, I guess he felt that he's going to use his Gobela superpowers, but unfortunately it didn't work. Well, it did for a short period of time. The mom was the one that actually caught on that something was untoward there. The daughter was no longer, fulfilling to actually be healed so that she can go through all these steps of twassing, because the Kobela obviously was more interested in the umjolo with the twasa. Then the Kobela wanted to move from Spruitview to Cape Town, and the mother thought that it's unlike her daughter to actually be insistent on this. This is a whirlwind affair that she's suspicious of. She doesn't think, she thinks that something is wrong. So she tricked the daughter to go to another sangoma so that they can just, check what is happening. Yeah, and yeah, it's funny, but it talks to these fake sangomas that obviously graze our pages every single day with different violations that they do to amatwasa. So after that, the daughter, when she was taken to the other Sangoma, she relates that she was given some muti to cleanse her, and part of it was to get her to vomit out what she would have been given by this shady Kobela.
Yeah.
And she said immediately after she did some rituals at home as well, she just realized that no, I don't love this man at all. So there was something that this man had done. So
you know what I find so lovely about how hectic it is? I mean, first of all, it's abuse of power. I mean, this person came to you, trusted you with their healing process, and you took advantage of that. You took advantage of that. Yeah. And the worst part of it all is that the way she expresses that, I didn't want this man to even walk out of the door. When he says he's going to buy bread, I wanted to follow him. I wanted to be everywhere where he is. Yes. That's how much love I had for him because of this Korobela.
Yeah.
Yo, I know, go hectic.
So it was even an unusual type of addictive love that I think that the parents then got to be alerted to say, this is not normal. Let's actually go and check and look if our daughter is under some form of spell or not.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing they did go check. Imagine if they let it be about Nomrata, only to find that this Kobela did their tricks. But let's move on to the next story. This one is about Gogos Koteni, who says she was at a river, Apatla, and then a couple of white people came and said, hey, you're not supposed to do that. That's evil. That's demonic.
Yeah, I think it's a clash of cultures. But it's one culture where if you're Christian, where people feel that they need to lord over other people that believe in different cultures. So Gogos Koteni has got quite a huge following. She knows her rights. She's very vocal about who she is in terms of being confident in her spirituality. So she had gone one day very early in the morning. She said she usually does ukupahla around 5 a.m. when this group of guys came in a bakkie, and basically they wanted to just eject away from that river. She wanted to, I think she said she was with her husband at the time, but they were trying to do some sort of, sacred rituals where you can also now start fighting. It doesn't talk well to the ancestors that they believe in. So she said they saw it right not to put up a fight. But we also talked to another lady that they had found her previously a couple of months ago before the Gogos Koteni. So she was able to reach out to her to say the same thing has happened to me. So it looks like there's some sort of religious zealots who know that along that river, Abogogo, they use that river for various rituals, and for them, they feeling that they're going to clean it up because they don't believe that. So if they don't believe that, for them, it's evil. So, and what they did is that they also, in the scuffle, they took the beads away, which talks to that old age culture where people will tell you that if you are a Twasa, you must not get into a workplace wearing your garb
beads,
or your beads. So it's actually talks to a deeper issue of the clashes of the different religions, and why should another religion feel that they are the ones that are going to police other religions. So I think it's good for her to have shared the story, and we saw a lot of people sharing the same experiences.
I mean, it's very sad. I mean, when I read it, I was actually quite shocked at the fact that while she was there trying to continue Ngokpahla, they went on to pray, and they said they were casting out the demons that she was casting into that river. And they also went, another thing I wanted to ask, I mean, she did say that the people that came with that bakkie were claiming that that river belongs to their uncle. Is there any way to prove that maybe she was trespassing on their land, or was it just a river, a public river, and these guys were just claiming things that are not true?
Because obviously when we call them, they hang up the phone. That's what they usually do in these instances. They would also tell people that you're in private land. And if you are in private land, we've had other stories where people who would say that, I don't want you to do this, this is my private land. Then when they show you, then you see. But I think from what we know from Gogoskoteni, it's a river that everybody can use. But when they've said that this is our land, that's how they basically want to chase you away. If you don't question, then you would say, oh, this is somebody's river, it runs through somebody's property, so I shouldn't be here. Yeah. But yeah, as you say, even the praying and the casting out, it's like what Gogoskoteni was doing is evil, it's demonic, and she needs to be cleansed according to them. But she doesn't take that lying down, and I do see her going back again to that river. So good luck to them. But I think she's one up for a fight all the time in terms of making sure she preserves her rights, basically.
It's a good thing. She must stand for her rights so she can set a precedent that other Sangomas can follow, and they could also get the right to use that river. But let's go back to the looters. Now, I'm reading this article, and I hear that the Minister of Health is saying that the looters must get tested. So my question is, if you go as a looter to go get tested, are you admitting to the crime as well?
I don't know. My other question, Mo, I'm not answering your question. I'm asking another one. Is that the looters, we saw that people used desperate people. And that was the gasoline and the match that was ready, and that's why the fire could be ignited. Which looter is also going to pay 700 rands or 100 rands to go test it? So I don't know if there was an amnesty perhaps where they said free testing, can all of you come? Then I would see a bit of sense. But I think it also leaves us with more questions than answers. What we are told and what we are anxious about, because you've seen the stats in Gauteng, they've been going down. Today, I think when I looked at the stats, we like hovering around 14,000, and Gauteng is 4,000 of those stats, and at least the rest of the 10,000 is distributed amongst other provinces. If you remember, about 3-4 weeks ago, when we were at the peak where we were getting 20, 22, 26,000 a day, Gauteng used to have 50% or even more than 50%. So the Gauteng stats were actually on a decline. But now, after the looting, the anxiety is that the stats will come back again. We will be on a very long third wave, and we are tired. We're very pandemic fatigued. We do want to get breaks in between the peaks until we get that herd immunity. We get as many people vaccinated as possible.
Yeah, I was listening on the radio this morning as they were saying that the Delta variant is now entering Australia, and New Zealand is saying all New Zealanders come here before it catches you and it comes to New Zealand. It's a big problem now. That this Delta variant is out here.
New Zealanders, they're the first to close the borders and the first to make sure that they protect their own.
They even say to them, you don't need to get, just come home. There's no need for visas, just come home, because you can already see it came from South Africa, it's moving down, it's going to get to us eventually. But let's move on, let's talk about this situation. So I read this article. It says, those are my school sweethearts. So these people met when they were 16, or the guy was 16, and they kind of broke up in between, but the ancestors are saying you should be together.
Yes, Kumbuso, what we hoping, because we couldn't talk to Tandaza, the intended. He's been in and out of relationships, but his meaningful relationship was a high school sweetheart when they met at 16, you're right. He then had to work after matric, I think. He went to Mpumalanga. Strangely enough, Utandaza is suspected to be in Mpumalanga now. Because apparently she had to go to live with some relative. So Kumbuzo shared with us that, he's just never found that kind of love that he found with his high school sweetheart. And it was interesting. One day recently, he was just up and about in the street, and a healer came to him and say, I've got a prophecy for you. Your ancestors want me to tell you that you will not be happy in love unless you go back to, told him the name, your high school sweetheart. So it also answered what he knew in his heart, because he said in all the relationships that he's had, they were bad relationships. This was a relationship that still lasted, made the most impression, the one true love. So now he unfortunately was retrenched during lockdown, like many people, and he's now to prepare in case Thandaza come back. He's now doing odd jobs, helping a friend fix cars. So we use the platform as an SOS. We haven't had any feedback as yet from Thandaza, and we're always rooting for a good story. I'm rooting for a good story, that whatever broke them apart at the time is not something that is not fixable, because there's certain things we also cannot fix.
Yeah.
But Mo, the interesting other aspect, the ancestor says that his children,
yes,
Thandaza is the only woman that also has to bear his children.
Really?
So he finds himself, so he finds himself in a bind to say, it's true, I love this woman, but they say that all his children are going to come from her. So that's how special and chosen she is by his ancestors. Yeah.
No, I can trust the ancestors. I know a few people that married their high school sweethearts, and they look happy, and they are very happy. And the rest of us, we're struggling out here in the streets, but it's fine. It was only there's one more story that I want us to look at before we look at the digital bones, and that's the celebrities now starting to contribute with the aftermath of the looters. So we have a story from the Daily Sun. Can you please give us perspective of what happened here?
Oh yes, I think Club Reach, a lot of people know it in Durban, and the guy that owns quite a few other concerns. So he's quite well known in the social circle. His wife Annie was one of the Real Housewives of Durban. They were not spared when these lootings happened. People came and they thrashed this whole club. In all their businesses, including the wife's businesses, they've got plus minus 100 people.
Yeah.
So what they've done as part of a cleanup as well, they have contributed money. They're contributing money to now make sure that until they get on their feet, they give food parcels to 100 of their workers, and they want to concentrate, I think, on 10 workers on a consistent basis. But it shows the heart of South Africans, and what we see was warming us when people were guarding malls and when people were giving out help during the whole chaos. That even when the people that have been looted, that have lost money, they can have the heart to say, with what we have, we can still share. So very heartwarming story.
It's a very heartwarming story, but it's time for us to go to the digital bones now and see what was said this week. I hope you are ready, because this one is always very, very educational. Let's see it.
Sinerida unomusa otuhlala aphupha ahamba esigangeni ahlatshwa ameva kodwa akakwazi uku-avoid lameva yamhlaba. So sifisa ukwazi ukuthi kusho ukuthini ukuphupha uhlatshwa ameva.
Lapha ngathi baphansi banaye bamabonisa indlela ukuthi le ndlela ahamba kuyo akufiki, kumele atshentsha indlela. Ngenzeka bamkhombisa impilo le akuyo, impilo le ayiphilayo ayihambisani nalezi zinto aqonde kuzo yena. Kumele bambonisa ngokuthi bamvise ubuhlungu, akwazi ukuriveza ayemuva, or ahamba yokuza abanye abantu athi hayi mina amaphupho wami ahlala abuya njalo ngihamba ngento eyi-1. Bazomchazela uma ukuthi ikhona into afanele ayenza yenzela abaphansi, ngoba imeva ikhuluma ngani ngokuthi ma uya le bona bayakujikisa. Kumelanga uhamba phezulu kwemeva right through, kumele kube sometimes indlela ivuleke kuhambeka kahle. So kusho ukuthi izinto zakhe ziyastaka empilweni.
Mapula, we have only 1 minute, so share with us your thoughts before we close up the show.
I think that the person that came with the dream thought it's an enemy that's after her, but the explanation is actually quite illuminating. She needs to look into her life and look what is it that she knows she's doing that she's not supposed to do, because the thorns in the dreams are representing a warning. So your ancestors are warning you before you actually get into trouble. So it might not be that she's not necessarily doing anything wrong, but is she on the right path? So sometimes it might be about her job or about her relationship, where deep down she knows maybe this man is not for me or this job is not for me. So they saying that you are on the wrong path, you need to change direction in your life, which was very interesting lesson to learn from Baba Nzam.
Thank you for joining us once again, Mapula. We went through some interesting story this week. Unfortunately, we ran over time, so thank you for joining me. I'll see you again next week. Well, super viewers, it's been an interesting journey on today's episode of the week that was. We saw a lot of stories, some heartwarming stories, some sad stories, and some happy, joyful stories. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next week.
You are watching SupaTV.
Ukuphi indoda wakho?
Hayi wena ungaliyenza so.
Ukuphi?
Yingini ilele.
Yendlini.
Yingini ilele.
All right.
Look at the subtitles. Iriri, ilrere, irere.
Ukuphi indoda wakho?
Yingini.
Kuphi?
Iriri, irere. Can you play the cat? Because I don't think Kanye saw that one. And that one was for her.
Ukuphi indoda wakho?
Hayi wena ungaliyenza so.
Ukuphi?
Yingini ilele.
Yendlini.
Yingini ilele.
All right. Ukuphi indoda wakho?
Yingini.
Irere.
Kuphi?
Indlini, irere. Indlini, irere. All right, let's read the caption before we play the video. When you're the side chick and the main bae comes back.